Welcome back, everybody, to the fourth installment of what is simultaneously my personal favorite type of video to make on this channel and also the least watched type of video on this channel. It is time to look at the last year and figure out what the 50 best songs are, what the 10 best albums are. That video is gonna come up tomorrow, and yeah, I'm really excited to go through this list with you. Of course, I'm gonna be going through the first couple ones a bit quicker because 50 is so many songs, but if you're curious about the list rules, because some do always apply, they're here on the screen. You can stop if you want to read them, but now, if you don't mind, we're gonna start with number 50. Starting off the list are Frank Carter and the Rattlesnakes with the song American Spirit, and I think the best word to describe this song is probably going to be sexy. Really, the whole album needs to go to horny jail, especially songs like Honey, but American Spirit just has this very groovy, laid back, and yeah, sexy thing to it that is really enjoyable. Next up is the opener for the last Sum 41 album of all time, Waiting on a Twist of Fate. It's a really back to the roots, classic pop punk banger that is basically everything you would have wanted from the finale of Sum 41. Next up we have On More by Trophy Eyes, which despite having great lyrics, a wonderful vocal performance, and general a real taste of energy throughout the whole song, leaves you mostly remembering the great riff and guitar work, and I really appreciated that. Speaking of great guitar work, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Tom Morello, who again this year teamed up with Grandson, as they've done at this point so many times. They've become somewhat of a dream team. They delivered us One Last Dance, the official title track soundtrack for the new Venom movie, and Grandson has stated that this is one last banger before, in a certain direction that banger is, before going into a completely new direction and on a higher level for his next album this year. So I'm excited to see what Grandson has in store in 2025. Taking a bit of a detour into the indie territory with this next pick. Obviously, these lists that I'm doing generally tend to be more influenced by rock and metal and everything with heavier guitars, but there are some exceptions, and this year there are more than ever before. And one of them, the first one to start this list off, is Tudor Cinema Club with Happy Customers, a really fun short bop that you can just relax and have fun to. It's been, what, 6 years since we got the last Breaking Benjamin solo song? And was it worth waiting 6 years just for Awaken? Not necessarily, but the song is still good on its own. If you take away the context, it's a great comeback song because even though they didn't break up or anything, they've been gone for so long that you can consider it a comeback song. But it's good at that. It's classic Breaking Benjamin. It's everything that you would have wanted. It's nothing new. They're not reinventing the wheel, but I don't think that anyone expected that at this point in their career. So it's good to have them back, and I'm curious to see what the next album brings in 2025, hopefully. Next up, we have a song that should be taken very seriously. It is a team-up of two giants when it comes to poetry and wonderful lyricism and thought-provoking statements, and those two artists, of course, are Electric Callboy and Baby Metal, who teamed up on Ratatatatata, which is one of the most fun times you can have this year with a metalcore song. The two complement each other so well, and it's overall a really fun time. Continuing with collabs, we have Hurt featuring The Warning by the band That's Poet Society. I know the song was technically released last year, but the reiteration with the added feature of The Warning was released this year, and it elevated the song to such a degree that I thought it was worth putting it on this list, and it was a really enjoyable time. And we have yet another collab, again with a very thought-provoking... It's I Prevail and All Time Low. It is Hate This Song. It is as basic as you can get in the pop-punk formula. It's technically reiterating a song that they already had in their discography. I Prevail once did a song called Stuck in Your Head, and lyrically it boils down to the exact same thing as Hate This Song, but I still thought it was worth putting on this list because it's so much fun, and especially the breakdown comes so unexpected once you know that All Time Low is involved and you're thinking, oh, this goes more into the light and pop-punk direction, and then Eric just comes in and obliterates everything, and it's a lot of fun. A lot of fun can also be had with the new Joywave song Brain Damage. It's very, very groovy, and if you listen to it for the first time, you're probably gonna have a hard time getting used to the beginning, because if you want to check it out, check out the visualizer with it too, because the way that the beat builds is so absurd, and it's a lot of fun, but it's just not something you would expect. And then when you start having it in your playlist, it comes on shuffle. The first couple of seconds are always a bit confusing, but once you're in the flow, it's a generally really great song, and I would recommend you check it out if you're into Brain Damage. And talking about brain damage, you know who else has brain damage? All the men that Scene Queen sings about in her new song Whips and Chains, which is this super interesting feminist revenge fantasy about guys who spike drinks and are generally huge assholes. And the entire song is such an anthem, and it's a banger live. I've seen it live. It's a great song, and yeah, the first iteration on this song of unadulterated female rage, which is great. These next two placements are a bit funny because after Scene Queen, we have Amber Mark coming around again, bringing us the first pop entry into this list. And then we go right back to the metalcore aspect with Future Palace's Deke Arabia, another banger, not quite as impactful and menacing as Malphas was last year, but it's still a wonderful time of a song. The same can be said about Boston Manor and Container, as in it's a great song, it's a lot of fun, but it's not quite as hard-hitting as the highlights off of their last album were, as in Foxglove or Passenger, which landed in my top 10 songs of that year. Still, the entire album is a lot of fun. Moving on, we have one of the heaviest songs on this list, and that's gonna be Spiritbox with Soft Spine. I don't think there's a world where Spiritbox releases something and it doesn't land on this list. I think they've been on every single year I've done them so far. And yeah, they're showing no signs of stopping. Quite the contrary, they're going to be releasing their sophomore album next year, and I am hyped. I am really, really interested to see what 2025 brings for them. Badflower are next, bringing us a very specific feeling in Detroit, where the chorus line is basically the encapsulation of the entire new mood that Badflower are going for. It's so depressing having everything you've wanted, and now we go from Detroit all the way to Saturn, because that's where SZA is at, because their life truly is better, and also a very vibey, very fun song, completely different direction than Badflower, and also completely different direction to our next song, which is gonna be Oh No, He Said What, which brings us into electro-infused pop and indie territory. Oh No, He Said What by Nothing But Thieves comes very unexpected after the last albums and the last album cycle, but it hits that much harder because of it. Next up, we have another contender for heaviest song on this list. That's going to be a work of art by Ice Nine Kills, the Terrifier song that they did, which really does terrify you if you listen to it on Spotify and you open the song and that fucking clown jumps at you. It's an experience, but in general, the song is really good. It's them at their heaviest, and great chorus as always. Wonderfully done. Ritual wasn't met with a lot of praise when The Devil Wears Prada released it, and I understand where fans are coming from because it is more on the octane core side of things. It is more on this classic new metalcore sound than their previous album, Color Decay, which was a milestone, a wonderfully crafted album. But making one of the best metalcore albums in this vein doesn't disqualify you from having just a bit of fun with a song like Ritual, and that's what the song is to me. A bit of fun. And moving on, we have a band that can definitely sing 1, 2, 3, a couple of songs they've made about fans not liking their new direction. That's going to be Architects with Whiplash, not quite as heavy as, say, Seeing Red was last year, but it doesn't need to be. That's the whole point of their new arc. They're trying to prove to fans, oh, we don't need to be heavy. And having Jordan Fish along definitely helps in creating a wonderfully crafted song that works especially well with the new music video. Next up is a song that I would bet most of you have never heard of, because it is probably the one that has the least streams, listeners, whatever. It's a very, very small band. I genuinely have no idea where I know this song from. Maybe it popped up in one playlist someday, or I have no idea how I know the song. But Grad Day by Customer Service is a punky, more in the pop punk, but definitely emphasis on the punk part, anthem about graduation day. This call out, I hope your family's proud, works so well. That's definitely a song that most of you probably haven't heard, and if you're into pop punk and well done pop punk, you should probably check that one out. The same praise that I just gave to Grad Day can essentially be copy and pasted and also administered to the new song by the band The Wonder Years called Year of the Vulture. It's also a very punk infused pop punk song that gets you ready to fight in a way, but then again, I think that's what the song is meant to do. Here's to hoping that the rock and metal poser gods don't smite me down for saying this, but the next song is gonna be Hozier's Too Sweet, which I know is very mainstream and very untypical for this channel, but what can I say? I enjoyed it, it's a great song, it gets stuck in your head, it's not quite the lyrical level that Take Me to Church or any of the previous work was, but it's catchy. And sometimes that's all a good song needs. This song is catchy, and it's one of the best to do it this year. Which is also true for the new song by the band called Leoniden, which is Never Never. And that chorus got stuck in my head after seeing them perform at a festival, and it hasn't left my head since. One of the best songs of their career, one of the best songs of the year. If you never heard of them, they're kind of this German indie rock band. You should probably check them out. This next band is another one that you might not have heard of. They got a lot of shit for their last album and now bounced back with Back to the Root sound. And that band is, of course, a Green Day with their song Father to a Son. Now, those of you who have watched this channel before might have seen my Green Day video where I ranked the best song on each album. And you might remember that there I said 1981 was my favorite song, but over the course of the year it has definitely shifted to the more emotional, to the more demanding songs like Saviors, like Bobby Socks, but also definitely to Father to a Son, which is now my favorite song off of that album. Olivia Rodrigo's Guts was among my favorite albums of last year, so when I checked out the deluxe edition, I had high hopes and they were absolutely met with an array of great bonus tracks, the favorite of mine being So American, a love song by Olivia Rodrigo that is not sad. I was surprised as well as you might be, and it's also a good one, so that's wonderful. Continuing the detour that we started with Olivia Rodrigo, next up is going to be Aurora with the song To Be Alright. I know that Aurora is an artist that a lot of people in the rock and metal community have a big space in their hearts for, because she's so magnificent, her voice, her image, everything about her. She's just so cool, and you can feel all of that on this new song To Be Alright. And a lot of the same things can be said about an artist that I didn't even know existed last year, because otherwise I would have put her album on my list, and that is Chappell Rowan with Good Luck Babe, a song that I'm sure a lot of you haven't been able to escape from this year, and for good reason. It is an amazing song. Starset are next with the song Toxic, and by the spelling alone you can probably see that this is a clever critique of a certain social media app, YouTube, of course. No, but it's this TikTok critique that is very well thought out. It is very well produced. I know that a couple of people in the fan base had a huge problem with the song because Dustin started rapping for the first time. I don't personally mind it. Actually, I think it's kind of cool, but the rest of the song more than makes up for it and delivers one of the best songs of the year. Next, we're gonna go to Mexico because Highly Suspect are taking us there with this incredibly blues rocky, very southern inspired, cool tune that is the sound that is found throughout their entire album, but I think best done on this cut called Mexico, which if you're at all into like southern rock or parts of country or whatever it is, you probably should check that one out. It's really groovy. Next up is Touch by The Main, and that's another song that definitely belongs in Horny Jail, but it's so sexy. Yet again, it's so cool, it's so sexy. It has this very unique and distinct feeling to it that matches very well with the lyrical content, and just seeing how The Main went from their last album to this is an artistic choice that I can respect, and it created one of my favorite songs by the band, so kudos to The Main for the admittedly very, very horny Touch. Next up is someone who has had just the biggest influence on rock and metal in 2024. She was on so many important features, and of course I'm talking about Poppy, who also delivered with her solo stuff. The Cost of Giving Up is my favorite song off of her new project. Just the chorus, it's so catchy, the production, the mixture on everything. There were so many songs on that album that I could have picked for this list, but I just kept finding myself replaying this specific song. That's why it landed here, but generally the whole album is absolutely worth checking out. As we near the top of the list, there's one thing that can be said about all of the songs that follow, but also of course for this song, and this is world-class entertainment. Twin Atlantic are one of my personal favorites. They are somewhat of a hidden gem if you compare them to peers and other bands, but yeah, World-Class Entertainment is such a bob, it is so much fun, and the entire album really is filled with energetic rock bangers. They went back to their roots and it worked out very well for them. Frank Turner is someone who also delivered an album full of worthy picks for this list. Think of Girl from the Record Shop or Ceasefire. But my personal favorite would have to be Letters, probably because of the emotional note to it. The entire song, we get the story about someone who loves someone else, who they used to write each other letters, and he's reminiscing about that, and by singing this song he gets so back into his feelings that at the end he decides to write another letter, and that letter is probably the song that we got. So I really appreciate the song for doing that on the lyrical level, for being so wonderful emotionally, instrumentally, and that's why it's here. There's a lot to be said about the new Nothing More album, and those things will be said in another video that I might be recording in a bit. But the best song off of this album, for me personally, has to be Down the River, which is crazy because my favorites are always not the ones that Nothing More put out as singles. And the singles were great. If It Doesn't Hurt, it was great. House of Sand was great. But in the end, the chorus in Down the River and also how it flows from the interlude is just incredible, and I really, really love that song. It has one of the best choruses that they've ever done. Beartooth's Attention is the sole original bonus track off of this year's The Surface Deluxe Edition, and it is so much fun. It is very different than the original album. It's obviously also upbeat, but the electronic elements are so much more prevalent on this song than they have ever been in their entire career. I have seen on forums that people hate this song because of it, but I just found myself replaying it over and over again. I really love the vocal performance, I love the production. I've seen it live twice, and it was an absolute banger. So yeah, I don't know what you could say against the song. I can only speak for it, and I think it's a banger. Kings of Leon delivered an album that feels like a breath of fresh air, and the best among those breaths is definitely Mustang. It took a lot of convincing for them to get back on my good side after a horrendous festival performance of theirs that I've seen that, I don't know what it was, bad crowd, bad day, whatever it was, I've never seen so many people leave a headliner performance before and since. But when they came out with this new song, I checked it out, I gave them a shot, and I'm glad I did because Mustang is so much fun. Specifically the guitar work and the production around the guitar, but also the lyrical content of this song make it to one of my favorites of the year. Speaking of great lyrics, I think there are few songs this year, if any, that come close to my next pick, which is gonna be Kacey Musgraves with Deeper Well. The entire album really is so amazing lyrically, but this song specifically just catches you, and the metaphor that is built upon for the rest of the album, but also works on its own, really gets you finding the deeper well within yourself, growing up, the way that she speaks to people that she's had in her life before, and how she has grown as a person on this song really gets you, moves you, is emotional, and the overall performance just adds to the wonderful thing that is this song. Poppy is back on this next song, which is not technically hers, although she is the only one whose voice we hear. It is Violence Against Nature by the band Bad Omens, who, by the way, delivered one of the best with their Concrete Jungle OST, the best bonus editions of an album or an album cycle that I've possibly ever heard. So many great songs with so many great features. Their song with Era is amazing, their song with Wargasm is amazing, but the favorite will have to be Violence Against Nature. This whole artificial thing that Poppy builds up, the whole production that adds to her sounding so artificial, and that tying in with the theme Violence Against Nature, about artificial life, intelligence, whatever you want to call it, is so well crafted, so well put together, and her going from the soft spoken and then also artificial sounds to the very heavy sounds, everything in this on the song is nailed perfectly by her, and yeah, definitely a worthy contender for the top of the list. Starting off the top 10 is Bring Me the Horizon with their song Top 10 Statues That Cried Blood. Do you get it? Did you get the joke? I asked if you got the In all seriousness though, this song is wonderfully produced. The way that the breakdown goes into the electronic elements is so interesting. Vocal performance on point by Ollie. Lyrical content super well done. Generally the production, the instrument, everything about this song comes so well together. It's on an album full of standouts, and yet this to me is the most standout song because everything that Bring Me the Horizon are trying to achieve on this post-human iteration, the genre bending, the fusion of emo and modern electronic production, the epiphany, the pinnacle of all of that is found on Top 10 Statues That Cried Blood, which makes it a worthy song to kick off our top 10. Dan from Bastille comes in at number 9 with Eve and Paradise Lost, one of the most interesting storytellers of the year. Just the overall production, the lyrical content, the perspective of Eve, looking at this like it is a broken relationship. It is so much fun, it is so entertaining, it is so heartbreaking. Everything about this song is really, really well done, and although there are many other great ones on this project, I feel like this has to be the best one. Number 8, we have the Friday Pilots Club with the most dance-worthy song of the year. That is going to be Vampire Disco. Their entire album is full of dance-worthy bangers, but the best one has to be Vampire Disco. The point where the last line of the chorus hits and you go into this I don't even know how to describe it, but it's so funky and it's so much fun and it gets you up whatever you're doing and makes you want to dance. And only a few songs have the energy and the danceability that Vampire Disco has this year, which is why number 8 is going to the Friday Pilots Club. There are few songs that are more danceable than Vampire Disco, but that doesn't mean there are none, because at number 7 we have Bright Lights by The Killers, which gets into a Meatloaf direction, very, very 80s, 90s, partly even 70s with new school production. Everything about this song is so much fun. It's very, very larger than life. It's very grand. It's very in your face with everything about the production. Looking at the album cover, looking at the lyrical content, looking at the sounds, you can almost see the Las Vegas big color explosion with a light show, and the song does a really good job at portraying that. And even in spite of all of the visuals, and take the lyrics away, take the visuals away, just musically alone, synth-wise alone, this song is an absolute banger. Boundary pushing is probably the best word to describe the new song by Landmarks called Creature. You have these very distinct rapping vocals in French, you have the very, very larger than life epic chorus, and you have the very brutal parts, and the way it all flows together is what impresses me the most about this song, because all 3 parts on their own are good, but you wouldn't necessarily think that they could work together as well as they do, but they do, and they do it so effortlessly. This is another song that I've seen live twice this year, and it's such a banger, really, really high replay value, really good metalcore song, and absolutely worthy of being in the top 10 songs of this year. The last detour of the list comes in at number 5, which is a genre that I don't think has ever been featured on this channel, at least not this prominently. We go into hip-hop, we go, of course, to Kendrick Lamar and Not Like Us. If you're a huge music nerd, if you're a huge music enjoyer, despite the genre, you kind of had to follow the Kendrick-Drake beef this year, and it was so entertaining. There were good blows on either side, one more than the other, and ultimately Kendrick came out the victor. And I think what's so interesting about Not Like Us is that it's not necessarily the best diss from the entire series that goes to Meet the Grahams. It's also not the best lyrical performance that Kendrick had this year. I would say that's reincarnated. Also not the best vocal performance, that's also reincarnated. But the entirety of how everything works together, the cultural impact, I feel like in 10 years we will remember 2024 for being the year of Not Like Us. And this is why I feel like Not Like Us deserves to be on this list, even though I've seen other people put other songs of Kendrick's at their tops because they're better lyrically or they are more entertaining, they're whatever. I just feel like Not Like Us is the defining cultural moment for hip-hop of this year. And that's why I am putting Not Like Us at number 5 here. Coming in at number 4, possibly the best debut performance I have ever seen, House of Protection with Pulling Teeth. I love and adore so much about this song, from the very, very good instrumentation, the possibly coolest breakdown call out of the year, to the fact that this is so well produced. I am appalled by that in some instances, because those are two musicians that admittedly have had a lot of screen time in the big band Fever 333 previously. However, they just started a new band, they're kind of new-ish to the scene, and despite all of that, they have so much better production than so many other bands, and I don't know what it is. Maybe it's Red Bull Records, their new label, which only has another rock and metal artist, that's Beartooth, so you already know that the quality is gonna be up there. But everything about the song is so good, lyrics so good, the performance is so good. I am itching to see them live because I think it will be absolutely amazing. One of, if not the most energetic picks of this year, definitely pulling teeth by House of Protection. It is now time for the band that everyone already knows is going to be on top of every list of every person that is involved with rock and metal, and that is Knocked Loose. However, you might not necessarily have figured out which song I'm gonna put here, because I know there's people who put their lead single, Blinding Faith, on here. Most people put the feature of Poppy, which would have been the third entrance for Poppy, Suffocate, which obviously had the most cultural significance with the Kimmel performance. But personally, I feel like the second single, Don't Reach For Me, is massively underrated and my favorite of theirs this year. The general anger that we see on the lyrics here, in the performance you always feel the anger, but especially on this song, just the line, "That's exactly why your daughter left, do you hate me now?" Like, the entire attitude of this song is so mean and so aggressive, and it works so well with the instrumentation. Like, also the breakdown, everything about this song is so damn aggressive and so good at it. I think Don't Reach For Me easily deserves the number 3 spot, which, a fun fact, is exactly where Knocked Loose were last year. Ever since I heard this next pick for the first time, I was convinced that it would be the number 1 song of this year, and that's New West Order by Fever 333. It is so incredibly energetic, the production is so well done, the sample at the beginning is so interesting, rap performance by Jason is just wonderful, also April starting to sing for the first time in a Fever song at the end, really really well done, super catchy chorus that really gets stuck in your head. Everything about this song is so well done, like literally everything about the song is so well done, and I really loved it. And I never thought that anything could come up that would take the number 1 spot from this song. I couldn't think of any artist that was supposed to still release something this year that could snatch the number 1 spot from them. But then of course came an artist that no one was expecting to ever release something new again, and you all already know who this is. Number 1 of course goes to Linkin Park. It of course goes to The Emptiness Machine. Which, as I said for Kendrick and Not Like Us, is not necessarily the absolute masterpiece in everything and the absolute best thing that Linkin Park released this year, because I do think that there's an argument for Two-Faced to be the best song off of the album. But everything surrounding The Emptiness Machine, the way that they built up with the countdown, the reverse countdown. I was on holiday with my family when that live stream happened and they revealed Emily, and we were like, I was up at 1 or 2 in the morning just to see that. And there is so few bands that could get me hyped like this, like Linkin Park did, and everything surrounding The Emptiness Machine has to be one of the most fun, heartbreaking, emotional moments of the year, with everything surrounding Linkin Park. And they came back, and they didn't just come back cheaply with a song that no one cared about. They came back with a banger. Such a banger that it's one of my most streamed songs of the year, despite only coming out very late in the year. The production is so well done. You just know that they took so much time and effort into making this comeback. Also worth our time, making it so fun. And everything about that can be seen on The Emptiness Machine, which is why it's gonna be my top song of the year. Thank you so much for watching. Curious to see what your list looks like in the comments down below. I will also be uploading my top 10 albums, so go check that out if you want. After that, I don't know when we'll see each other next again. Maybe only next year when I count down again, because I have so few time during the year to make videos. But I just thought this tradition that founded the channel, the first videos that I ever did were those countdown videos. It can never die. I can never stop making them. Just if no one's watching, just for myself, to have like a review of the year and what great songs we got. So yeah, appreciate you staying with me if you've watched this far, and curious to hear your thoughts in the comments down below.